Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I am the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the creator of the blackbrazil.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight's article doesn't necessarily have a direct link to race, even though some of the people or the people that I've most prominently featured in today's post are two African Americans and two Afro Brazilians. But again, the article this doesn't necessarily have anything to do with race, but I wanted to get into this because for the last I don't know couple of years, there's been a growing movement of people who have expressed interest in perhaps finding long-term partners in other countries. And a lot of people have expressed interest in Brazil. And I have to say, uh, I've been going to Brazil since the year 2000. And so, this is something that I've been accustomed to for a number of years, as I have been to the country numerous times over that 23-year period. I lived there for 9 years. So, over the years, I've come across numerous, particularly African Americans who have been starting to travel to, various parts of Brazil. Um, Knowing some of these people, they've led to some incredible exchanges because we all have a different experience. Just talking about living, visiting the country, and knowing people, dating, marrying people. We all have our own perspectives on it. So it's a really good thing to have some contact with people who've been to the country and who have interacted with Brazilians on a regular basis. So with Brazil being a country that so many people have expressed interest in traveling to, particularly African American males, I'll just like to explore or present the idea like, well, people have been into Brazilians for a number of years. It's just that in the last few decades, it seems like African Americans have really shown a lot of interest in, getting on the plane and traveling, I don't know, maybe 9 to 12, 13 hours, depending on how you get there. So I just wanted to talk about this for a minute. Today I'm going to talk about 6 couples which feature mostly an American and a Brazilian, we'll just say non-Brazilians and Brazilian partners. So I'm calling this article, "What is it that the Brazilian has?" 6 foreigners who have dated and or married Brazilians, right? For the last year or so, maybe longer, there's been this movement called the passport bros or whatever. And, as I've said before, I have never considered myself a passport bro because, I had been going to Brazil for years, long before this term passport bro came up. And so, I just looked at myself as an American who was traveling to Brazil. I had an interest in Brazil, particularly in terms of the differences and the similar experiences between two groups of African descended people who were enslaved by European and colonizers. So obviously, most of us know the African American story, but the Afro-Brazilian story is equally intriguing. So as I said, I'm not going to really discuss much on the race issue today, as much as I want to just talk about the fact that there's been a number of non-Brazilians who have made headlines for dating and or marrying, having children with Brazilian men or women. I think these are just, like I said, these are just 6 couples that I'm going to talk about today. There have been many more. A lot of people know that I think, the lead singer of the Rolling Stones, Mick Jagger, I think he has a child with a Brazilian woman. So, I could expand this, but for, just to put out a short video, I thought just featuring 6 couples would be enough, just like an introduction to the topic that would leave the door open to talk about this a little bit more in the future. So let me talk a little bit about these 6 couples. Perhaps you might be familiar with a couple of them. I don't know if you can see this picture. How many of these people do you recognize? Particularly if you're from the United States, a lot of these people you will recognize. But if you don't, let's get into it anyway. This is based on a few articles that I found online. The first one is called "It's Not Just Kanye West. These are 5 Gringos." what Brazilians call foreigners, who have dated Brazilians. So today's article is courtesy of Epipoca in Tangerina. These two websites you can find online. The second article is actually weaved into this, and it specifically speaks on one of the couples that, let's say, we made headlines. I don't know, it was just maybe 3, 4, 5 months ago. I'm not sure when this story broke, but I'm going to get to that in the second part of this article. So Kanye West is a man who doesn't need any help making headlines. Anyone who has followed the career of the rapper, producer, entrepreneur knows this. Towards the end of last year, Ye again made headlines after he began dating the Brazilian model Juliana Nalu. In October of last year, West went public with his new Brazilian model girlfriend, the Carioca, again, which means the native of Rio de Janeiro, won over the heart of Kim Kardashian's ex-husband, and according to her, he even had plans to visit her family in Rio de Janeiro. Now, whenever we deal with these Hollywood, entertainment circle people, I'm always a little bit skeptical. Call me, whatever. I'm just really skeptical when I look at these unions between, Kanye West, Kim Kardashian, even Beyonce, Jay-Z. I'm just a little bit skeptical. I don't know, are these just average, everyday couples, or is there something more going on behind the scenes? Because we all know how Hollywood is. And so you just never know. When I saw Kanye with Kim Kardashian, I just really didn't look at it as a real relationship. That's just me. To some degree, I still look at Jay-Z and Beyonce in that way. I mean, they could be as real as any other couple, I guess, but there's something about when uh, again, what goes on in Hollywood circles and what it takes to enter those 100 million, 500 million, $1 billion circles, and what you have to sacrifice to stay in, as part of these elite groups. So it just makes me question the legitimacy of, some of these quote unquote power couples. Like, okay, I don't know them, don't know nothing about their lives, but we all know we've seen some really weird things come out of Hollywood, for some time now. To ignore it is just, okay, close your eyes and you don't want to see it. So, that's not something I'm going to get into here, but that's just how I feel about, what goes on in the entertainment business. It's just some weird stuff that goes on. Get with me outside of this video. I can talk a lot about that. People who know me know what I'm talking about. So let me keep this going. With an almost 10-year career, Juliana gained more visibility after being associated with West, and in just one day, she managed to add almost 70,000 new followers on her social networks. She and the rapper met at a party in March of 2022, and the model's look caught the attention of the musician, who even set out to do work with her. I reported on this last October in my blog post entitled "Juliana Nalu Continues to Be One of the Great Brazilian Models Abroad." Now being featured in brands of Kanye West and Kim Kardashian, she is destined to become a top model. So that's this article right here. Again, this is from October 1st of 2022. It was just talking at the time, I wasn't even really, I don't think I covered the story that just talked about how, Kanye kind of, I guess he got into a relationship with Juliana Nalu. All right. But this is when she was just, wearing, she was being a model for the clothing brands for both Kanye and Kim Kardashian. Right. Apparently, Kanye's ex, Kim Kardashian, was also caught off guard by this relationship. Kardashian tweeted from Recife, which is the capital city of the Brazilian state of Pernambuco in Brazil's northeast. She tweeted out, Juliana Nalu dating Kanye West. I honestly wasn't ready. The man is coming to Brazil. Now, I clicked on this Twitter link, and apparently it's not up anymore, but somebody caught it. So like I said, I mean, Kim Kardashian, what can be said? I'm not even going to get into Kim Kardashian. I mean, if anybody, you find it a little bit strange, some of the backgrounds that some of these people have and how they just end up being rich and famous. Again, what did she do behind the scenes to get, to the position where she is now? You guys know what I'm talking about. Anyway, their relationship had officially gone professional, or gone beyond professional. And soon Juliana and Kanye were beginning to be seen often together. But the relationship wasn't meant to be, as it quickly fizzled off after a couple of months. Why, you might ask? Well, do you remember when Kanye was making a number of statements that had people thinking that West was off his rocker? Well, that was enough for Juliana to call it quits. She soon announced that she had parted ways with the controversial producer. Now, in terms of, we know that people like Kanye and Kyrie Irving, several other people over the years have made headlines for some of the things that they have said. All I would say is, you know, there are certain things you can say and certain things you can't say in the mainstream media. All I would say to people before you judge people as being crazy or that sounds ridiculous, oh, he's tripping or whatever, look into some of the stuff that he's saying or they say, and, come to your own, do some research and come to your own conclusions. I'll just leave it at that. Asked how she could date a man with such controversial views, Nalu announced that she was in fact single and went on to thank everyone for caring about her. This is not the platform to discuss Kanye's views, so I would just keep it moving by reminding you that Juliana is not the first Brazilian woman to win over the love of a famous foreigner. The Tangerina website remembered 5 other foreign celebrities who fell in love with people from Brazil. Let's take a look. So the Tangerina website looked at 5 couples, but I'm going to throw in a bonus couple at the end of this article for you to check out. This first one features Lenny Kravitz and Adriana Lima, a popular Brazilian model seen here. Lenny Kravitz and Adriana Lima met at a photo shoot for the American magazine Vibe in March of 2001. The New York musician has always been known for his affairs with models and other artists, but he fell in favor with the Brazilian and engaged in a romance that lasted into 2003. Kravitz came to live with the top Bahamian model and even proposed to her, but she refused. According to Adriana Lima's interview with the Brazilian magazine Isto É at the time, the relationship came to an end because of their busy lives. Now, this is not Adriana Lima, but let's talk about this. And anyone who thinks Adriana Lima was the only Brazilian in Lenny Kravitz's life is mistaken. In 2018, the musician dated the Mineira, Barbara Fialho. Now, Mineira means a person from the state, the southeastern state of Minas Gerais. She was coincidentally parading as a model for years for Victoria's Secret as well. Looks like Lenny Kravitz has a certain type, doesn't he? Possibly. Then you have Madonna and Jesus Luz, all right? Okay, so yeah, I'm sure everybody has their own opinion of Madonna. But, again, this is another person that just reminds me that there's some really sinister, strange stuff that goes on in Hollywood and in entertainment circles. I mean, do the research, come to your own conclusion. I mean, Madonna's what, like 65 now? Well, I think she was born in 1958. So that means she'll be 65. She came from it's a whole lot of, just legendary musicians that were born in 1958, Prince, Michael Jackson, Madonna, Babyface, and there's still others that I'm not even mentioning. But okay, so Madonna has been known to be linked with a number of men over the years. So, Madonna, what can you say about Madonna? I'm going to keep those thoughts to myself. But Jesus Luz, again, this guy right here, became famous after dating and starring in Madonna's music video. Madonna's courtship with the Brazilian model Jesus Luz gained so much attention in the Brazilian media that 10 years after the end of the relationship, the Rio de Janeiro native confessed that he could no longer answer questions about that artist. Quote, he says, "I've been asked a lot about my relationship with Madonna. That's one of the questions I'm tired of answering. It makes me a little tired. I understand she's a myth, but it's been 10 years, the actor and DJ said in a live video with actress Wally Hui in 2020. Currently, Jesus Luz is a father and has recently gone through a divorce process after a 7-year relationship. In 2008, he met the Queen of Pop in a photo shoot and engaged in a romance for which he was eternally scarred. Curious to know what that means. The model even starred in the music video for Celebration, and the relationship opened several doors for him in the artistic world. Then you have Akon and Nicole Bowles. Now, as I said, most of the people dating or marrying or having children with Brazilians in this article, they're all Americans except for Akon. Of course, Akon became famous after, putting out some music in the United States. I believe, what is Akon? I think he's maybe Senegalese. But even though he's Senegalese, he got his fame through his work in the American music industry. So Nicole Biles, this woman here, had a brief relationship with Akon in 2010. She was a former participant of the Brazilian reality show known as Fazenda, A Fazenda. Nicole Biles was still acting as a panicat on the program. It's a comedy show called Panico no Bungee, when she met rapper singer Akon in Rio de Janeiro. In an interview with the Sergio Malandro's Papagayo Falanchi podcast, Nicole told how the meeting went. This is her talking. She says, he was in Rio and we made friends with his sister. She introduced me to her brother, but I couldn't speak English. My finger hurt from using the translator. It cramped up, she recalled. She also explained that she met the artist again in Mexico where he was doing a show and agreed to give her an interview. Now, it mentioned here that this woman was once what was called a panicat. I don't remember what year I became aware of this group of women called the panicats, but I was teaching English in this school in the periphery of Sao Paulo. And one of the guys there was like, "Oh man, you never heard of the panicats?" And he was just his face just blew up. He was just all smiles and giggles. I'm like, okay, well, what is this panicats? We took a moment at lunch and we just pulled up a website so he could show me what he was so excited about. So, basically the panicats are, I guess you could say, like some stage assistants. They're like, the eye candy on this Panico Nubanji comedy show. And, it's just very typical. It brings eyeballs to the shows by showing these scantily clad women on the show. So this woman, Nicole Biles, was a panicat for a time. Anyway, the relationship lasted just over 2 months, and distance was the main reason for the breakup. There was no fight. We decided to break up because we weren't able to meet and we spoke only by email. We had almost no contact. It ended naturally. No one has 13 years to email or call and say, okay, let's end it, okay? We're still friends. Nicole explained to Ego magazine, explained this to Ego, or they say in Portuguese, Ego magazine at the time. Then you have Demi Lovato and Guilherme Vasconcelos. In 2016, singer Demi Lovato engaged in a romance with MMA fighter Guilherme Bomba Vasconcelos that lasted almost a year. The singer, who recently landed in Brazil for shows at Rock in Rio and Sao Paulo, even got a tattoo similar to her ex-boyfriend's. Okay. The romance between the Minas Gerais fighter and the artist was very public, with statements on social networks and Demi Lovato even commenting on her boyfriend in interviews. According to a source in People magazine, the relationship ended amicably. Okay, many of you might know who this couple is. Matthew McConaughey, the American actor, and model Camila Alves. To complete this list, well, at least according to one site, an affair that turned into marriage and has lasted to this day. Matthew McConaughey, the winner of an Oscar or Academy Award for Best Actor for his role in Dallas Buyers Club of 2013, is married and very much in love to model and host Camila Alves, seen in this picture as well. Born in the state of Minas Gerais, again, Minas Gerais, Camila went to Los Angeles at the age of 15 and stayed there. McConaughey and Camila met in 2006 and married in 2011. The union has already yielded 3 children. I don't know if that's Levi or Levi, Vida, which in Portuguese means life, and Livingston, age 14, 12, and 10, respectively. I read somewhere that they want to have a bunch of more kids, as many as they can have, apparently. So this is the couple that I threw in that was not included in this article, but I found it on there were several websites that were talking about this particular couple, Danny Glover and Eliane Caballero. Let's take it from this site here. The star of, as I said, if you're familiar with American films, how they're brought to Brazil and then the titles are translated into Portuguese, and they're usually overdubbed in Portuguese or have Portuguese subtitles. So it says the star of Lethal Weapon, what they call Machina Mortifera. They end their marriage. Well, the star of Lethal Weapon ends his marriage with a Brazilian after being caught with another woman. I'm sure a lot of you remember this story. I don't, what is the date on this? It's from June of last year. I'm like, wow, that's kind of funny. I didn't realize so much time had passed, but that's more than a year ago. It's like 13 months ago that this story broke about Danny Glover when paparazzi caught him on a beach with a woman that was not his wife, or what people, woman he had been married to for a number of years. So then, last but not least, there's a relationship between actor Danny Glover and Professor Eliane Caballero. As I've been into the Brazil thing for more than 2 decades, I was familiar with Caballero's work. I knew that they had been a couple for years when the story broke in gossip columns that Glover was seen frolicking on a beach with a woman that wasn't Caballero. Another picture of the couple here. Danny first met Caballero in 2003 during an event at the World Social Forum in the southern city of Porto Alegre on his first trip to Brazil. The two were friends for a long time until they fell in love and decided to get married. At the time, he publicly declared his love and said that he was very happy to be able to share his life and discover new cultural experiences with the professor he met in Porto Alegre. They both came from previous relationships. I think she has two children, two boys, if I'm not mistaken. I think Danny Glover has one daughter. Don't quote me on that. I know he has at least one child. The couple had lived in San Francisco for a number of years, but we can never know what went down between the two. And I still don't know what led to the couple's ultimate breakup. Glover confirmed the end of his 10-year relationship with Caballero after the actor was spotted enjoying the company of a woman that clearly wasn't Caballero. Okay. The photo here, and there were several that came out. The photos were taken by a paparazzi photographer, and it showed Danny standing next to real estate agent Regina Murray on an island in the Mediterranean Sea. In the images, the two seem to have been very cozy. After the matter went viral in the press, the actor confirmed that he was no longer a married man, but he didn't detail whether the collapse of the marriage happened before or after being outed. Known for playing major roles in films such as Lethal Weapon, The Color Purple, and The Predator, the star is also famous for participating in major political events. He has been involved in projects based on the Black movement around the world and has visited Brazil numerous times, participating in campaigns with labor unions that are committed to guaranteeing workers' rights. An activist in movements aimed at ending poverty and racial inequality, he even declared his support for President Lula da Silva a few times. Now, if you remember Lula, he was president of Brazil for 2 terms from 2003 to 2010. His handpicked the person who came out of his party who was handpicked by Lula to continue the Workers' Party rule over Brazil was Dilma Rousseff. You know the story. She was president, the first female president of Brazil for 6 years before she was impeached. She was replaced with an interim president, Michel Temer. And then in the election in 2018 or so, extreme right presidential candidate Jair Bolsonaro came to rule the country for 4 years. And now Lula da Silva is back for his third term. He was elected last year in November. So Glover was once quoted as saying, about 80 million African descendants of the Southern Hemisphere live in Brazil. Through its regional and global leadership, Brazil can exert an extraordinary influence on the future of African descendants. I am very happy to see President Lula express his desire to work with countries in Africa, establishing relations aimed at development. His now ex-wife, Eliane Caballero, is a very important figure in studies on race in Brazil, particularly in relation to unequal treatment given to Black children in Brazil's school system. Caballero investigated racial prejudice in public schools. She spent her mornings at a local preschool, a middle-class neighborhood of Sao Paulo. This was at the end of, I don't know. I don't know if this was, her research was in 99, 2000, 2001, somewhere in there, where she observed the relationships of teachers and white children, as well as Black children. According to the text that would become a book, teachers were much more impatient with Black children. They were less affectionate, and in extreme cases witnessed by the researcher, they were even humiliated. Black children were humiliated with unthinkable expressions and terms that they would use for black children. During her research, okay, this is the cover of the book right here. During her research, Caballero stated that the situation is frightening. Not even I imagine how unprepared the teachers still are in dealing with the ethnic diversity in the classroom and in society, said Caballero. The conclusions of this work are part of her master's thesis. Translated in English, it would mean from the silence of the home to school silence, racism, prejudice, and discrimination in early childhood education. So, silence in the home. Now, Caballero, as well as, many Brazilians have spoken on growing up in Brazil, if they were black, their parents just didn't have conversations with them in the household about what it meant being black in a society that was decidedly anti-black. So, this is not a discussion that it's very common. You hear a lot of black Brazilians say they never had any uh, contact, exposure to the race issue growing up because they were always taught that first, Brazil doesn't have any racism. And second, if something racist happened to you, just to ignore it, don't talk about it. Okay. Very different from the experience in the United States. So for the past few years, Caballero worked at Stanford University as a research associate at the Center for Latin American Studies, where she taught a course on race and gender relations in Latin America. Caballero has had a number of important posts over the years. She's participated and been the head of certain Afro-Brazilian oriented research groups. So, it's not like a lot of people talk about this, how do relationships work? And a lot of people will look like black men go to Brazil just to pick up, women who, they might be poor, they might be uneducated, they might have no money, no education. That's not always the case. Eliane Caballero has a long history of talking about the race issue. She's a very prominent figure in the Afro-Brazilian social movement. And like the work, that 2001 book, that was like an eye opener for me because again, Brazil has this image that says we don't have these race problems, but then you look at how teachers treat black children versus how they treat white children. This was a groundbreaking work. So Eliane Caballero was well established in her own career, and when you go to Brazil today, you'll find that there are plenty of women who are very well educated in the country. So I would just say, looking at particularly all of these couples here, most of these relationships fizzled out at one time or another. Some of them appear to be just flings. But what I would just say is that, as people want to flock to Brazil looking for love, just keep in mind that you're going to have cultural differences, language differences, just getting accustomed to a whole different culture and a different way of life for people. But at the root, men are going to be men and women are going to be women. So that's just something to keep in mind. It's not like, you're going to go to Brazil and you're going to just find what they call traditional women everywhere. There are a lot of places in Brazil that are very much, urban. So I would just say, and I've said this plenty of times, don't just go to Brazil and just, you want to get to know the women. In order to get to know the women, you do need to understand a little bit about Brazil's history and culture. A lot of people say you can have relationships with people who don't speak your same language, but it would make things a lot easier for discussion and understanding the other person's perspective if you took some time to learn the language. So this is just to say, yeah, a lot of people are interested in getting to know, what Brazilians are like. I see more men going to Brazil in pursuit of women than women going to Brazil because, when you look at the dynamics of relationships, in some ways it's more difficult, for women, particularly coming from the United States, looking for a Brazilian man. You have a smaller pool of Brazilian men who have what we'll call just economic opportunity and access to, a solidly middle or upper class background, so it just makes the pool smaller. And if you go to Brazil looking for these types of men, you have to understand these men have a whole lot of choices, a whole lot of women who they can get with. And if they already have their money and you come into Brazil looking like, well, you're an American or wherever you're from and you're going to have an advantage, I've known a number of women who have been disappointed with that, but that's a story for another day. Right now, I just want to understand what you all thought about this article, what you thought about this video. Drop a couple comments in the comment section. If you know of any other couples that feature an American and a Brazilian, regardless of their race, definitely pass that on. I would like to know more. I'm familiar with other couples besides these six that I pointed out today, but this is what I love about social networks. I'm not going to know everything that goes on in Brazil. So if there's anything you might know, definitely, send me a link, drop a comment in the comment section, like this video, share this video. Consider, subscribing to this channel if you've watched more than a few videos that you found intriguing. Click on that notification bell so that you'll be alerted when I put up new videos. And with that said, I'm going to end this video here and invite you to come check out the next video.